Hello, I'm Susan Miller, founder of Just Move Ministry and author of After the Boxes Are Unpacked. After 30 years, Just Move Ministry has retired, but our legacy will live on. As my gift to you, you can stream the video teaching series from After the Boxes Are Unpacked. You can also download the facilitator's guide and the study guide by going to the links on this channel. May you be encouraged during this time of transition in your life. This is so exciting to know that we are just on this journey together and that we're just holding hands and sticking together through it all. And so if you've missed anything, if you've missed the first two sessions, make sure you get the video, borrow it from a friend or your church or your chapel. Just make sure you get it and you can catch up. That's the neat thing about videos. You just put me in, honey, press the button, and there I am. How about that? So today we're going to talk about the stress of moving. You probably left stress at home when you came this morning. We're going to talk about the stress of moving, maybe a couple of those things you can apply to everyday life, whether you're just moved or whether you've been here a little while. And then we're going to talk about a ding or a nick. You're going to love that story. So there is a great purpose in understanding that too. Let's kick right off by me asking you, do you know what you have in common as a moving woman with millions of other women? Do you know what you have in common? Do you have any idea? Don't answer. I'm going to tell you, okay? MSM. Moving, stress, meltdown. How do you like that? You know, everybody has a little catchphrase. You know, everybody has, every organization or whatever. Well, we have our own MSM, moving, stress, meltdown, because I think that says it like it is. I think that we do. In fact, we don't have to be moving to have a stress meltdown. We can have a house full of kids and have a stress meltdown. We can have a wild and crazy friend that causes a stress meltdown. So, what is MSM? It is our term for what we're going through and how we feel when we're uprooted and when we go through change. It comes from stress overload, and it affects every area of our life. And stress does that. And the transition of moving, the trauma of moving. And I know, let me back up a minute and tell you something. I know all moves are not hard and bad and difficult, and there are moves that people look forward to, and they're retiring and they're going to the place they love, and I mean there are good moves. I've had some good moves. I'm not saying all moves are hard, but what I am saying is that a move is stressful because a move is change. You've got to find a new hairdresser. You tell me what's more stressful than that. With change comes new stuff you've got to do. And so, you just need to know that when I talk about moves being so stressful, I understand that a lot of you have a great move and you're excited about it, but something's going to go wrong, and you're going to get a bad haircut before you find a good one. Now, those things happen. It affects every area of our life. In fact, a lot of people have said that moving is like taking a 1,000-piece puzzle and turning it upside down on the floor and then having to put all the pieces back together again, and you're the one that does it. You're the catalyst for your home. You're the one that has to put all those pieces back together. It's much like a moving stress meltdown. Besides putting the pieces of your life back together, it's much like a washing machine. Okay, now walk with me. You're going to get this. I don't know about you, but I put a lot of towels in my washing machine, go in the bedroom to make up the bed, and the washing machine, I hear this horrible noise, just terrible noise. And I know immediately what's happened. It's on overload, and all the towels have gone to one side. It's tilted, and it makes this huge noise. So what do I have to do? Make a beeline to the laundry room, open the washing machine lid, rearrange the towels, put the lid down, and it hums on and finishes wash. We're just like that as movers. When we go through a moving stress meltdown, we're on tilt. And it's like all of our load is on one side. And what do we have to do? We have to take a good look at ourselves, and which is what we're doing in these sessions. Take a good look at what that stress is that's affecting our load and kind of redistribute it or balance it. Put the lid down and life goes on until the next day. You've always got to be doing that, right? But that's the comparison with the washing machine is we're much like that as women and as movers, because we have to stop, either eliminate some stress. Sometimes I have to take some towels out or redistribute them, and then that balances, and then we kind of hum on till the next crisis. But the moment we find out we're moving, our stress rises. The moment you find out you're retiring, your stress rises. The moment you find out you're pregnant, the moment you find out you've got to go to work or you're going to quit work and you've got this great job. The moment you find out that you're going to have to move into a planned community because maybe you can't take care of your large home and you're downsizing. You see where I'm going with this? The moment you find out there's changes coming, your stress level rises. And we all, of course, handle stress differently, and that makes a difference. But it is that break of routine in our life, that break of normalcy that will throw us on that stress level. Because then you begin to anticipate the change to come, and you start checking your list. And you have people in your life. Think about this. You have people in your life that help with the physical part of moving, but very few to help with the emotional part. And so that's why our studies are so valuable for women, because we help with that emotional part. The stress overloads in moving, packing and unpacking. Packing and unpacking. Because you're not just packing things, you're packing part of who you are. And so packing and unpacking, you are reliving memories that are attached to everything that you pack. Even if you move across town or in another neighborhood in the same city, when you pack, there is something that is happening that is breaking the normalcy of your life, although it may be a good move. Packing and unpacking. You're unpacking your life. You're packing up your life. So instead of looking around when you're packing, my moving friends, at all that needs to be done, instead of looking around, because that is overwhelming for us as women, instead of looking around, why don't you look up and focus on Jesus? Oh gosh, how many times that has saved my bacon. When I get in the middle of packing and cleaning out and simplifying or moving, and I get so overwhelmed, to take my focus off of everything around me and look up and focus on Jesus. Packing and unpacking. It is exhausting. And then the second thing is adjustment to a new location. That's huge. Do you get it? Yes, you get it. A lot of times men don't get it. But it's the little things. It's the little things that can add up and throw you off balance. For example, you live in a place where you know exactly where the Christian radio station is on the radio. You love your TV weatherman. Every night on news, you feel like you've raised his children and know his life story. You move, you don't have a clue where to find that Christian radio station. That can be one of the things that hits you hard. You look at the news and you think, who are these strangers? You know, I mean, and then the little things. When is garbage pickup? You don't have a clue. And where's the school bus going to stop? You forgot to ask that question. You know, where is the best bank? Where, you know, how do I find the grocery store? I mean, those are the little things that add up, and it's all part of the adjustment. For me, it was really and truly, you know, eating guacamole, and really and truly, it was learning how to pronounce saguaro. I did a great job. Cactus, things like little things that can totally unravel you. And so instead of thinking about all the things you don't know, think about what you do know. God is here in this community. God is right here. He is right here. He's in your kitchen. He's in your bedroom. He's in your den. He is right here. Think about that. Because yes, there's a lot of things you don't know that you will figure out. Rome wasn't built in a day, and you're not going to know it all in one day. And then there's destructive comparisons. Boy, that is stressful to compare. Do you know, let me tell you this now. It takes 1 year for you to kind of not compare anymore how wonderful it was where you lived. Oh my gosh, I lived, not me, but I'm just scenario. I lived in Chicago. The weather was great there. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh, it's snowing there right now. We always compare better, we remember better than it really was. I would say, oh, the traffic here in Phoenix is terrible. It wasn't this bad in Atlanta. Duh. The traffic's terrible in Atlanta. You always, remember that, you always compare, and it takes about a year to work through that, and things will always appear or seem better than they really were. And so there's nothing wrong with great snowy weather or traffic. It's just kind of funny how we do that to ourselves. We compare places and situations. Instead of comparing what was, think about the positive of what is. Somebody said to me, well, Arizona, isn't it so hot there? And I said, yes, but we glow. We don't sweat. And I said, I plant flowers and they last almost all year round. And I said, the positive flip side of that, instead of comparing what was and thinking about what was, think about the positive of what is. Remember that you can't change the past. You can cherish it. You can cherish where you came from. And believe me, I go back to Atlanta and absolutely love it. I have to go back and renew my Southern citizenship at least a couple of times a year. But I stopped comparing because I've accepted the beauty of Phoenix. There's nothing like a sunset here, and there's nothing like a blooming cactus. That sounds kind of funny, a blooming cactus. But, think about which one of those might apply to you. If you're struggling and feel like, gosh, do I have a meltdown? Are you comparing? Is it your adjustment? Is it your packing and unpacking? Think about those things. Let me take you back. I love talking about the Israelites, and I just love their wandering around because we learned so much about that. They were movers. But let's talk about the despondent desert dwellers, the case of the despondent desert dwellers. Do you not love those little names I come up with? Don't they just... You're going to remember the Israelites as the despondent desert dwellers. Now, they left Egypt Okay, you know that, and if you don't, it's okay. I'll just give you a brush stroke. You'll read it when you read in your Bible in Exodus 13. You will read all of that. But they were going to the promised land, okay? Oh, I'm going to the promised land. Just like, I am moving to somewhere I've always wanted to go, because that's just going to be the best place, and everything's going to work out, and everything's going to be wonderful, and I'm sure that's what they thought. And they thought it would be a pretty quick trip. I thought it was a pretty quick trip from Georgia to Arizona. Had no idea it was 3 days across the desert, Texas. Love Texas. Have great people in Texas. Love Texas. Just a long ride. Okay, but it turned out to be a 40-year journey. Oh my gosh, tell me how you would do on a 40-year journey, okay, when you'd only packed for a quick trip. And it was a journey through the desert. And it was a major, major stress. Talk about moving stress meltdown. The despondent desert dwellers had MSM. Packing and unpacking. Can you imagine this? Packing and unpacking for 40 years. That's a little more than I could handle, I think. They were worn out. They were miserable. They were grumbling. They were weary. And you know why? You know why? They took their eyes off of Jesus. Man, they were into what was going on around them. They took their eyes off of Jesus. I think I've mentioned that one before. If we keep our eyes on Jesus, it makes such a difference. And then there were great adjustment issues in the wilderness and the desert. Can you just imagine that? Okay, they were in the thick of it. And there were great adjustments. Now we're talking, what did I just give you? Stress, I talked about packing and unpacking. Okay, I talked about adjustment. And then I talked about comparison. I'm taking the Israelites right through those steps because you see it applies to all of us. All of us. So they had adjustment issues and hardship and discomfort, and it led to complaining and whining. And how many of you, when you've been uncomfortable, complained and whined a lot? Okay? If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And they wanted to go back to Egypt. I wanted to go back to Atlanta. You might want to go back where you moved from. They forgot to follow God's leading. They forgot to follow God's leading. You see how you can just imagine what they went through, and you can see how they took their eyes off of Jesus, how they didn't follow his leading. And then, guess what else they did? They compared. They compared life in the wilderness with the way they remembered it in Egypt. Don't you just love that? We're just like that. We're all in this boat together. We're all in this suitcase together. They compared. Oh, it was so much better there. Well, yeah, maybe it was. But remember, they'd taken their eyes off of Jesus. Everything back in Egypt looked so much better than where they were. And it appeared better than it was. They remembered only the good, not the bad. And there was a lot of bad stuff going on in Egypt. But they remembered the good things, not the bad. They forgot to trust God. They forgot to trust him. How many times are we in the thick of a move and we don't get it, and we are comparing everything, and we are having all kind of issues with packing or unpacking, or we're just miserable. And we forget to trust God. Gosh, the deeper I go into the lives of movers all over the world, and then see the parallel with the people in the Bible, it brings me great comfort to know that you are not alone, that you're not the only one that's felt like this, and that there are those that have gone before you. I'm going to give you a couple of modern day stress relievers to keep in mind. When you go through MSM, the moving stress meltdown, I want you to rest and relax in the midst of that. Sometimes you just need to sit down and take a deep breath and rest and relax, because it is a great detox for your mind when you do that. The second thing is, and these are just light stress relievers, is to eliminate and simplify. Remember, less is more. It's good to clean out before you move, and sometimes you have to clean out a little more after you move, but less is more. Be flexible and forgiving. When you're moving, you've got to be flexible, like the Gumby that you can. I've got a Gumby on my desk, and it's a reminder to be flexible. Your routine is going to be broken. Your schedule is going to be broken. You just need to be flexible and forgiving. And sometimes you need to ask for forgiveness if you've, in your family, if you've said things or you haven't responded, you've reacted. And then be grateful and grin. There, I did it again, I know, grateful and grin. I stay up all night coming up with these words that are all begin with the same letter. I'm just kidding. But be grateful and grin, because you stress less with a grateful heart and a smile. So if the Israelites had done some of those things, I bet they'd been a lot better off. Okay, now, we had moved here in August. I thought, where in the world is everybody? Had no idea they kind of stay indoors in hot weather. And so Bill was happy in his job. The kids were great. They did soccer, great, because Mama had been over backwards getting them in everything they were involved in. And so there I was. And I'll never forget the first day that Bill went off to work, so happy. You know, when men transfer in a corporation, they have people waiting on them with open arms. You know that, don't you? While we are trying to muddle our way through the mess and find a friend. So he was happy. He was going to work. They were waiting on him. The kids got them in school. I remember dropping off our daughter at school, walking back in the door, closing the front door, sitting in the middle of the floor, in the middle of boxes, and crying my eyes out. And it still conjures up an emotion for me. And I said, Lord, is this all there is? Is this all there is? Moving every 2 to 3 years, because that's what you do in the hotel business, climbing the corporate ladder until you realize you're leaning on the wrong ladder. But so I just sat there and I cried, and I was so sad. I was so miserable. I was so angry. I was so all about me. And I remember thinking, I'm going to run away from home. I've had enough of this. I'm just going to leave home. As much as I would do, of course, not literally. But in my mind, I thought, I've got to get away from it here. Just get away. So I got in our secondhand clunker car, and I had read somewhere in a Phoenix magazine that there was day trips. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go to this place called Apache Trail. And it sounded, like an escape to me, like a place I could run away from home. So this was, just a trek across town on surface streets, and then a highway, and then finally and here I am crying my eyes out. It's August. I've got the window rolled down. People are looking at me at stoplights like I'm nuts. I'm just bawling, this emotional release, and I'm heading towards the Apache Trail, have no idea where I'm going, and finally come to a sign that says, switchback, enter at your own risk. A pavement ends. And, me, I thought, well, I'll just go, whatever. I'll do it. And so I leave the paved road, start going up this mountain, and it is literally, as it goes higher, it's switched back, becomes one lane, Nobody can go past me this way. Nobody can, anyway, it's single lane. There are mountains on my right. There is a drop in a canyon full of water on my left. And I thought, well, I was having the pity party of the century. And I didn't know anybody to invite. That was the sad thing. I didn't know anybody to invite to my pity party, but I was having a motherload pity party. And so finally the car started stalling to the point where it was scary. It would stall and choke out and stall and choke out. And I went like 10 miles an hour. And I thought, Lord, what have I done? I didn't tell Bill where I was going. No, I don't know anybody. I'm in a place I don't know. What's going to happen? I was so fearful. And I held onto the steering wheel with both hands, and I sang every song I learned in Sunday school. And I repeated every scripture that my Bible school teacher made me memorize. And have you ever done this? Have you ever said, Lord, just get me out of this and I'll never do it again? Yes. I said, Lord, get me back to Phoenix. I will never do anything like this again. And then I started praying, and I said, Lord, and I was crying, and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't turn around and go back. Have you ever been in a situation where you couldn't turn around and go back? You are in it, girl. You can't do anything but go forward. And so I kept going. The car kept stalling. I kept praying, and finally I said, okay, Lord, I'm letting go. I'm not in control anymore. I can't handle this. You've got to take over. I just can't do this in my own strength. I can't make it. And I was talking to the Lord about a lot more than just Apache Trail. I finally got to the other side. There's some tourists looking down at the water, and I'm rolling the window down thinking, if this car stalls, I'll never get back home. And I said, where's Phoenix? And they said, oh, it's 80 miles here, way back over there. And so I finally chug-a-lugged back, got home at dark. I was so embarrassed about what I had done, so fearful over what I had done. It just kind of left me shaken. And I didn't even tell Bill for a couple of days. I just thought, this is unnerving to me. He thought I'd been at the mall shopping all day. And so, but I have to tell you that I learned a lot on Apache Trail. I learned an awful lot, and God taught me things on Apache Trail that I have used in my life since then. And it's right out of Joshua 1:9. Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not tremble or be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Let me tell you how that breaks down, okay? Just park on that a minute. When you are trembling because your journey is rough, okay? Slow down. You see, I had to slow down. I couldn't keep going at the pace I was going and the speed I was going. I had to slow down and take a deep breath and depend on God to get me through Apache Trail. I couldn't do it by myself. I had to just say, you've got to take over here. And I had to regain my perspective. How many times do you lose your perspective when you're moving? And it becomes so fragmented. Slow down, do not tremble. And the next thing was, do not be dismayed. In other words, when you can't turn around and go back and move back, when you can't turn around and undo a mistake you've made, when you can't turn around and undo the words that you've said before you left the house that day, when you can't turn around, you've got to focus on God and what's in front of you. I had no choice but to keep on going. I had no clue where I was going to end up. But do not be dismayed. Looking back at what you've done or what you've said or where you've been is not going to help you get through it. but God will equip you to move ahead. Whether it's walking back in the house and putting your arms around your husband, or a lot of times I have men in the audience, or men putting your arms around your wives and say, hey, we're going to start fresh today. We're not going to look back anymore. We're not going to be dismayed. We can't turn around in this move and do it over again. Focus on God. He will equip you. The third thing I learned was that the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. When you feel alone and afraid, He is with you. Remember who accompanies you. I'm telling you, I literally released the steering wheel of my life on Apache Trail. Instead of God being my co-pilot, He was the pilot. I thought, release control, Susan. You've got to relinquish your life completely to Him. And so remember who accompanies you and will ease your fear. And then be strong and courageous. I love that part in Joshua where it says, be strong and courageous. In other words, when your body, your emotion, your feelings just give away, when you lose all of that, when that starts to fail you, and stress will do it every time, it will manifest through your body, through your emotions. Give God control of your life. Release that and depend on Him to get you through. He'll strengthen you, and His strength will be your strength when you have no strength. So when you're on overload and you're stressed out, God will enable you with His strength. Boy, that's a comfort to me. I don't have to conjure up the strength. God will enable me to keep going with His strength. He will equip you with the right tools. Yes, sirree. This is His major big toolbox right here. He'll equip you with the right tools. He'll embrace you with His comfort. And He will encourage you with His word. They're all E's. Those are the things that I drew out of Joshua 1:9 that would apply to me, that I would understand the magnitude of God's word embracing me. And guess what? God's presence is the best GPS you'll ever have for getting where you're going. So now I want to take you into a ding or a nick, okay? Now, I was married to this wonderful man who felt like he had to wash my car every week, okay? Yes, every now and then he'd take it to a car wash. But he loved the physical labor of getting out in the driveway on a pretty day and washing my car. And he loved doing that for me. And he served me well. That was his love language, was service. So one Saturday morning, it was a beautiful morning, and he was out washing the car, and I thought, I am going to go out and drink my coffee on the grass and bond with Bill while he is washing my car, and I'll sit there and we will chat and have a lovely morning. Duh. So I go out there and I sit down, and the first thing, he's just going to town with it, and the first thing he says was, well, you sure banged up the car when you parked it at the mall. Well, of course, the hairs went on my neck, and I said, wait a minute, what do you mean I banged up the car at the mall? What are you saying? And he said, Susan, you have a huge ding on the side of your door. And he said, it's going to be kind of hard to adjust. If it was a nick, it would be a lot easier to adjust. He said if it was a nick, you could take a plunger. I could take a plunger, and I could just pop it out. Lesson learned, girls. Now you know what to do with a nick. He said, but this is a ding, and he says it's going to take a little more than that. And I said, well, Bill, I didn't do that. I don't park close to another car. And so there went my morning. And so as he was explaining that, I said, wait a minute, Bill, wait a minute. Say that one more time. Tell me one more time. I was in the middle of writing the book and putting all these chapters together, and I thought, that applies to moving. If your move is a ding, It's going to be a heck of a lot harder for you to adjust. You need internal restoration. You need healing from within. And if your move has been a nick, somebody can come along and give you a hug, and you're just going to feel so much better. You see, it all depends on the force of the blow, just like with a car. The force of the blow in your move, the force of the blow in the change in your life. It's the force of the blow that determines whether you have a ding or a nick. And the impact of that nick can be repaired from the outside, from just a surface change, where that ding has to be repaired from the inside and needs healing and restoration. So think about that. Think about that this week when you're driving down the street, washing dishes, changing diapers, whatever. Was this move, was this change a ding or a nick? You see, it's going to help you understand yourself. In other words, ask yourself, was it planned or unplanned? You know, if your move was planned, you can prepare ahead. If it was unplanned, you got short notice. That makes a difference on your stress level. Makes a difference on whether your move was a ding or a nick. Was it wanted or unwanted? If it was wanted, you've anticipated it. You're so excited. If it was unwanted, you've got no desire to move. So think about those things and how that affects whether your move is a ding or a nick. Was it expected or unexpected? If it was expected, there are no surprises. If it was unexpected, you had no choice. A vivid example of unplanned, unexpected, and unwanted move would be what I call the crisis move. And that's when your house leaves you instead of you leaving your house. We live in a generation now and in times now where crisis moves have risen because of foreclosures, because of job loss, because of natural disasters, because of the recession and economic setbacks. A crisis move affects a woman on a level that is unknown to her, where everything is ripped up, and instead of her leaving her home has left her through fire, through hurricane, through tornado. Think about the news and what you've heard. Those are crisis moves for people. When there's a job loss or a foreclosure, when there's an economic setback. It's unplanned, it's unwanted, and it's unexpected. And it leaves behind shattered dreams and broken hearts. A home foreclosure can result in a job loss or a recession or a bankruptcy. And that's a very private thing for a woman. There's a lot of shame attached to that for women. That's a new emotion that I've had to add to the luggage tags. Whereas a home that is lost through a natural disaster that results from a flood or a tornado or a hurricane is a very public move. Everybody knows about that and will bring meals and will come to help and repair. That's very public. One is very private and very painful. The other is just as painful, but there's more support in the public move than there is in the private. And those in a crisis move don't allow themselves to grieve because they have to push on and push through, and they don't allow that grieving to happen. So the impact for them, of course, would be devastating and would definitely be that of a ding. The impact of change affects us all. If it's a crushing blow to you in your move, it'll seem impossible to put the pieces of your life back together again, but it can be done with God's help. That's your ding. It can be done. It might look different, okay, but it can be done, and wholeness can happen again. If it's a minor hit, if it's not a crushing blow, but if it's a minor hit, then it's a nick. And you'll adjust rather quickly. You'll make a friend, you'll find a church, you'll find your place, and all the pieces will fall back together again, and life will resume a rhythm. How well you cope with change and how you find the strength to let go and the faith to start over and the perseverance to move forward has a tremendous effect on how you will be able to recover. Let me tell you something, my friends. Don't let the impact of a move or a major life change in your life be a permanent change within you. Don't let it bring damage to your life that is irreversible. Any life change can leave you feeling like you've hit rock bottom. But what are you going to do when you get there? Because there are times in life when we all hit rock bottom. And we can either stay there, which a lot of people do, sadly, or we can see God as the rock to climb out on. And He is the foundation and the rock with which to rebuild our life. Don't forget that. Be a moving overcomer with unwavering faith, inner strength, and enduring perseverance. Let's close in prayer. Lord, I thank you that you teach us, again through your word, Lord, that you teach us so many ways that we can be overcomers, that we can persevere, that we can begin to understand the stress of our move and change, and that we can, Lord, understand how the force of the blow has affected us. Lord, may we, when we hit rock bottom, may you be the rock and the anchor that we begin to build again on as you walk with us and hold our hand and take us through the crisis and the circumstances that moving brings. In Jesus' name, and we give you all the glory. Amen.